Hey everyone, we're going to start in about a minute. We are just waiting for everybody to join and then we'll start. Okay, cool. Hi everyone, are you guys able to hear me? Just say a yes or no in the chat. Everybody, just quickly drop a yes or no, guys, if I am audible properly. Audible? Okay. Let me know if you guys are able to see my shared screen. Can you guys see my shared screen, guys? Okay, cool. So today, guys, we are going to have a dedicated discussion around WebSockets. How can you develop WebSockets in Spring Boot? It's going to be a pretty interesting discussion, to be very honest, where we'll talk about a couple of things and let's see how much we are able to cover. I believe it's going to be a pretty interesting stuff altogether. Make sense, everyone? Okay, cool. So if you guys remember, we prepared a client socket service. Inside this client socket service, what we did, let's see. I don't think we wrote a lot of code, right? Did we? Maybe what we can do is I can prepare it from the very scratch. Let's do one thing. Let's prepare it from very scratch. Okay. I'll say new project. Okay. I'll call it as Uber socket server. Uber socket server. Okay. I'll click on next. And now, guys, if you want to set up your web server such that it also starts collecting requests in the form of WebSockets. So here you can search for WebSocket and there is a WebSocket, I would say messaging. In the inside messaging, there will be a WebSocket dependency. If you want to separately install that dependency, so you can search for WebSocket Spring Starter. Okay. And if you go here, then the dependency name will be something like this. Let's see if they have ever anywhere added it. No. Let's go back. Maybe on Baildung we'll see. Yeah, on Baildung we'll see. You can see Spring WebSocket you have, right? So you can separately add Spring WebSocket altogether, but I'm just directly adding it from my ID. Okay, apart from this, let's say what we can actually do is we can add maybe Spring Web so that we have the server up and running together. And if we need later something else, we will add that. I'll click on create. I'll click on new window. And you can see a brand new Spring project is up and running. By the time it actually installs stuff, let's talk about how exactly internally we have to set up things. So we talked about the fact that there is something called as a STOMP protocol. Remember, we talked about the fact that there is something called as a STOMP protocol, right? STOMP, you can say, is kind of like a simple messaging protocol that is able to forward messaging from one side to other side. Are you able to get this point? Is this point making sense, guys? Do you remember we talked about something like this? If one of you remembered. Okay, cool. Now, what happens behind the scenes is that, let's say there is a client. Now this client can be a web client. This can be a Spring Boot client. It can be anything. Okay. Let's say there is a client. Okay. And then there is a WebSocket server that we are going to prepare. There's a server that we are going to actually prepare. Okay. Now, first of all, what will happen is these two client and servers are going to set up a WebSocket connection in between them. Okay. So we are going to configure our server so that it starts receiving a, like, for example, there will be a handshake. Client is going to make a request to the server. Server is going to respond, and there will be a new consistent, or I would say persistent, WebSocket connection that will be prepared here. Okay, a WebSocket connection will be prepared here. Are you able to get this point? Once this connection between the client and the server is prepared, okay, now what will happen is client can actually start sending some requests to the server. Okay, at any point of time, if client wants to send something to the server, the client can actually directly send that. Okay, and immediately at the same point of time, if the server also has to send something to the client, server can also send that. Okay, but this is what on the Uber level you will feel once you have all the setup done. Once you have all the setup done, this is what on the Uber level you will feel. That's what's happening behind the scenes. Are you able to get this point? Okay, this is what you will feel. Make sense? Okay, but internally what will be happening is that there will be kind of like a message broker. If you remember, I defined the term message broker. You can say message broker is an end-to-end software that has all the infrastructure that helps you to enable kind of like a queuing mechanism, right? Okay. Now this message broker you can set up manually also, right? If you want, you can set up maybe a RabbitMQ message broker, for example. Or if you are using the Spring WebSocket, it sets up a in-memory message broker at that point of time. When you are running the server, it will immediately set up a in-memory message broker altogether. Are you able to get this point? Now, what will happen is that whenever server has to send something to the client, server is going to kind of like publish, or let's move it here. Okay. The server is going to kind of like publish that messages inside this particular broker, and the clients, that client can be your web client, right? It can be another Spring Boot client, anything, is going to kind of like subscribe to this message broker. Are you guys able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat. Is this point making sense? That what's going to happen is that the server is going to publish data to this message broker, and clients are going to listen to this message broker. Okay. This will be what under the hood things are going to happen. But on a nutshell, what you will feel like, the server is directly sending the data to the client. Now, why is that? Because now here we don't have a request response mechanism altogether. Are you able to get this point? We don't have a request response mechanism altogether. Like client doesn't have to request the server to get a data, right? Server can directly send the data because client has now set up subscribers on this message broker, and server has set up publishers on this message broker. And if you will use Spring WebSocket, it will automatically set up a in-memory message broker for you. Are you able to get this point? Say a yes or no in the chat. Okay. And if the client has to send something, that can be done pretty normally, right? For that thing, the client is going to make a direct request altogether through this WebSocket pipeline. As far as I know, in that case, it doesn't need a message broker altogether. Okay. Now, if you see how things are set up, let me actually show you a part of the code base. Once you have seen the code base, then you will actually understand things as well. So how do we set up this WebSocket configuration? You can see we have to make a configuration class. You can see @configuration. Can you guys see, everyone? I'm going very step by step. Okay. And @enable WebSocket message broker. So what this is going to do is this annotation is going to enable a WebSocket message broker to be created. Like this will help the message broker creation. Now we have to override two methods. This WebSocket config class is going to extend from the abstract WebSocket message broker configure, right? And there are going to be two methods that we have to override. One is a configure message broker and one is a register stomp endpoint. Are you able to get this point? Are you able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat. This one is pretty more important. This says that enable a message broker / topic. Enable a message broker / topic. Okay. Now this WebSocket, I would say library supports two type of brokers. One is a / topic broker and one is a / queue broker. Let me just quickly see if they have mentioned about / queue also or not. Okay, I'll talk about what is the difference between a / topic and a / queue. Okay, this is defined inside this library only. There is a subtle difference that / topic helps you to have a multiple client subscription and / queue helps you to only have a single client subscription, but we'll go with / topic. Let's keep it simple for now. That we will be having a / topic message broker. So any request that will come to this / topic message broker will be listenable by your client. Are you able to get this point? Are you able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat. And the second line says that set application destination prefixes. Now, what is this application destination prefixes? So later you will be preparing some controllers. Can you see? You will be preparing some controllers here. Are you able to get this point? Can you see here? There are some controllers that you are going to prepare. Yes or no? Okay. So inside these controllers, you are going to have a message mapping. For example, let's say /chat. So from the browser, let's say if you have a browser client, what you are going to send is, you are going to send something like this. Can you see? Client.send /app/chat. So this /app is kind of like a prefix. This /app, can you see, is kind of like a prefix. So every request that will go from /app/chat is going to be received on this particular function. Are you able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat. Okay. So can you see here it says message mapping /chat. If you do not put anything behind /chat, it will automatically assume that the message address is going to be something like /app/chat. Okay. So let me tell you what's going to happen. So when client has to send some data to the server, client will send the request in the form like this: /app/something. Okay, /app/ let's say I'll say :id, or for example, let's say something. Okay. So client will send the data on /app/something. This prefix you can configure also. If you want to say /foo/something, you can also make that. Okay. This is going to kind of like say that, okay, when client is going to send something to the server, where is the server going to listen? So this is where server is going to listen. Are you able to get this point? And whenever this message is going to return something, on what particular broker this message is going to be sent? Can you see? This is going to be sent on /topic. So if you see your browser client, can you see the browser client has subscribed to /topic/messages? Are you guys able to get this point? So there is a subscription that the JavaScript client has actually given. Are you able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat. Guys, is this point making sense? Sure, Somnath, let's collect all of the doubts and then maybe probably I'll just quickly repeat as well. Guys, I know this is something new for a lot of people, but are you guys able to get this point, what I'm trying to say? Everybody say yes or no in the chat. I'll write the steps also, but overall in a nutshell, like, okay, first of all, let's forget the code part. First of all, do you understand this publisher subscriber mechanism that internally this library is going to use? First of all, you guys tell me that. Kaustubh, you can subscribe through a JavaScript frontend also, or you can make a separate Spring Boot project and make that also as a client. Client can be anything that can make a request, right? Remember we talked about client and everything? Guys, I need response from everyone. Do you guys understand this? Okay, so again, repeating. First of all, your client and server is going to make a WebSocket connection. Let me show you where is that connection being made. Can you see on my JavaScript code? Again, currently I'm showing the JavaScript code. I'll also show you maybe how you can make a Spring Boot client. But can you see in the WebSocket, can you see there is a sock.js object that you are making on which you are actually on which you can actually put the corresponding address for the whole server. And if you see on the server side, there is a register stomp endpoints. Let's go step by step. Okay. So the first thing that will happen between client and the server is going to be what? The connection setup. Yes or no? Okay, cool. So how this connection setup is going to happen from the client side, considering I'm having a JavaScript client, you will make a new object, sock.js object, and here you can mention the address. On the Spring Boot side, in your WebSocket configuration class, you have to override a method, register stomp endpoint. Now, in case you are having another Spring Boot project, then your stomp protocol can actually work. In case you are having a web client, then in order to work with stomp endpoint, you need sock.js. So that's why there are two lines, registry.add endpoint /chat/ws/abc, whatever you can keep. This next line says with sock.js. This is to make sure that you are also able to connect from a web client. Are you able to get this point? Two Spring Boot clients can directly communicate with this Stomp protocol, but it's a simple message exchange. But for a web browser like JavaScript kind of a client, you need something like a sock.js. So you need to make sure that for both the clients, you have maintained the registry. It's kind of like you are mentioning that where to look for, on which particular route the clients have to look for the connection. Are you able to get this point? Okay, cool. This is the first part. Now, as I mentioned, once the connection is set up, client and server can seamlessly talk to each other. To seamlessly talk to each other, there is a message broker in between. Are you able to get this point? Okay. Now we have to configure this message broker also. So how do you configure this message broker? This message broker is configured here in this particular function. The first line says that enable simple broker /topic. So there will be a, you can say kind of like a message queue. When I say message broker, it has a lot of things because it has event handlers, enablement of publisher subscriber, a lot of things. So that's why we call it as a broker. It's a whole infrastructure altogether with /topic, like name. You can say it's a topic. The name of the broker is topic. For now, you can understand that. Are you able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat. Okay, cool. And then in this topic, whenever a server has to send some data, server can send the data or publish the data. Client will subscribe to the data on this particular topic. Okay. For example, let me show you the subscription part from the client. So if you carefully come up here, here in this line, it says stomp client dot subscribe. Dot subscribe. Are you able to get this point? What is the meaning of this subscribe? The meaning of this subscribe says that on the topic broker, for all slash messages, whenever we receive a, you can say a message in this particular message broker of slash topic message broker slash messages, execute this function. You know what you can relate it with? You can relate it with the fact that maybe this is an event. Name of the event is slash topic slash messages. At any point of time, if this event occurs, execute this particular function. When will this event occur? When the server is going to publish some data in the message broker. So it will keep on listening for this particular event. Or you can say it will subscribe to this message broker, and the moment this message comes up, it's going to start processing this message. Okay. Now on the, I would say Spring Boot side, can you see whatever is the function on any function, if you will say @send to slash topic slash messages, then technically with this WebSocket connection, the server is going to start sending the message to the corresponding client. Are you able to get this point? Say a yes or no in the chat. Are you able to get this point in the chat? Okay, so you can say this message broker is like, 1 second. Just a minute, guys. Okay, this message broker is like slash topic. Okay, now on this message broker, the server is going to actually send or publish something like slash message. Okay, and the subscriber will say that, okay, on the slash topic queue, if we receive a slash message, execute something. Are you able to get this point? Say a yes or no in the chat. Kaustubh, yeah, whatever you will configure here, whatever you configure, it's whatever you are going. Let's say if you say slash topic slash Sanket, then you have to listen for slash topic slash Sanket here. Make sense? Is this point making sense? Say a yes or no in the chat. Anybody having any questions? Yes. Don't learn it like slash topic is permanent, rest everything I can change. It's like topic represents the message broker, rest represents what message you want to actually send. It's kind of like that. But yeah. Okay. Anybody having any questions as of now? Anybody having any questions as of now? Okay. Now, if the client has to send something to the server, right? If the client has to send something to the server, on the client side, the same Storm client object can say Storm client.send. Are you able to get this point? Are you able to get this point, guys? Say yes or no in the chat. Okay. And whatever you send to slash app slash chat, this prefix, the first prefix slash app, you have to configure here. That what is the destination? Like on the server, when we are going to listen for the requests, what do we listen to? So we listen to slash app and then something. So any method you can configure. For example, here they have configured the same method only, but what you can do is you do not need this send to. For example, like just for a moment, let me do one thing. For better explanation, let me remove this pen. Okay, you can assume that you can create a message like this or a function like this, and you say @message mapping slash chat. So whenever the client will send something to slash app slash chat, this function will be automatically executed. Are you able to get this point? Say a yes or no in the chat. Getting my point, guys? So maybe let's try to play with this. Let's try to play with this, and then maybe we'll get a better understanding and a better conceptual, I would say, explanation. Make sense? Okay. Anand is asking, when we send the request to server, send method will be invoked. When you send the request to the server, @ message mapping is something that is going to handle everything. When the server is going to send something to the client, that's when your send it to annotation is going to come into the picture. Are you able to get this point? Okay. Now there is one more question coming from Akash. Client to server request will also go through the message broker. Okay. So you can say that in the overall WebSocket setup using this particular Storm protocol, this message broker is kind of like the heart of everything. Okay. This message broker is kind of like the heart of everything. And it is going to play the most critical role in routing and managing messages, right? So for example, when you are going to send something from client to server, right? You are going to mention this particular prefix like /app/chat/app/method. Are you able to get this point? Okay. Here, you do not need to invoke the broker because your server is already listening for requests. Your like normal web server also can keep on listening for requests, right? But let's say your web page is not a server. What is a server? Server can be any piece of software that can keep on listening for requests and respond back. For example, your DB server, right? Whenever you make a query, your DB server is looking for queries. It's accepting queries. Are able to get this point? But your notepad is not. Or your, let's say this page is not looking for any queries. Here you have to set up your listeners and everything. So for those listener setup, you need the broker. But for sending the data from client to server, as far as I know, it doesn't need the message broker. You can read maybe, but as far as I know, from client to server part, it doesn't need the message broker. No, for first time setup, you need to initiate a request from client to server. Once that setup is done, that's it. Okay. And the same thing you have to do with socket.io if you are having a node kind of implementation. If you are using Rails and Action Cable, you have to do that on there as well. For once, client has to initiate a request to the server. Like there are protocols like WebRTC and everything. I did a live stream around WebRTC and everything. You can watch that. Even in things like WebRTC, one-time connection setup needs to happen. Okay. But like you can check, maybe guys, just FYI, maybe the client when sending something to /app/something maybe uses the message broker. It is not explicitly mentioned anywhere in the like as far as I know, I have not explicitly seen it anywhere. You can maybe check and tell me, but it may be using because I can see for a few cases because otherwise, let's say for example, if I don't set up a web server, then also it can listen. It may be listening to the message broker, the server also. So maybe this app something can be routed. I need to check. I'll come back on this. I'll come back on this. Probably it might be using the message broker, but I need to like confirm a few things. There are a few things that we have to take care about. Video call apps are also using WebSocket. No, video call apps use WebRTC, but they use WebSocket for something called as single forwarding unit, SFU. Like you can watch my YouTube tutorials on that. I'll share it. Okay. So let's start the setup, guys. Let's start the setup. Okay. You can see things look okay here. Now, what we can do is, first of all, we have to prepare that configuration class, guys. Remember? Everyone say yes or no. We have to, first of all, configure everything, right? Okay. So let's do that. I'll say inside Java, I'll say new package configuration. Okay. And here I will make a new web socket config. Okay. And let's do one thing maybe. I'll bring the code directly from here. Okay. I'll bring these two annotations, copy, and Uber socket server. Here. I'll paste these two annotations. Let's import these configuration from Spring and enable WebSocket message broker from here. Okay, so these two annotations are up. And here we will say, let's see, extends abstract web socket message, or one second, there is one more interface also, implements WebSocket message broker configurer. This is something that you can use. Okay, implement WebSocket message broker configurer. Okay, and I'll say @override. So we are going to override two methods. The first method that we are going to override is public void configure message broker. Okay, and here we are going to use the message broker registry object. Okay, message broker registry object. This is the first function that we need to override. The other function that we need to override is public void register stomp endpoints. Okay, and here we will use a stomp endpoint registry. Okay, cool. And I will say registry dot add endpoint, let's say /ws means, let's say, WebSocket, and I will say dot with sock.js. Okay, currently I'm just using this because for now I'll just create maybe a JavaScript client, so I'll keep this. And here inside the message broker, I'll say registry dot enable simple broker /topic and registry dot set application destination prefixes /app. Okay, you can say this is the first set of configuration that we have to actually do. Got it? Okay. Now, what we can do is we can make a controller folder or package. Okay. Inside the controller package, I'll make a new Java class and I will say test controller. I'll map this class with @controller. Inside this controller, I'm going to have, let's say, first message, public string ping check. Okay, we'll do a public string ping check. Okay, and let's say, let's make a couple of DTOs maybe. Not ping check, let's say new package DTO. Okay, I'll say new Java class test request. Okay, let's say in the test request, we are going to say public string data. Okay, that's it. I'll say @getter. Oh, I didn't add Lombok, I guess. Let's quickly add Lombok. I'll take Lombok from here. Copy. Build.gradle. Lombok, so we should always add. But okay. Cool. Ping check and test controller. Sorry, DTO test request. Just a second, guys. Okay, there is a plugin also. I'll just quickly install and see. Let's see if it works good or not. But okay, cool. I'll say @getter. There is a plugin that it was recommending to install for WebSocket. I installed it. Let's see if it is usable. But okay, but by that time, builder, no args constructor, all args constructor. Okay, test request, and I'll make one more DTO, Java class test response. I'll copy everything from here. Here also, I'll just have public string data. That's it. Okay. And in the controller, let's say instead of string, let's say test response ping check. Okay, in the ping check, because it's a Storm protocol, so there is no request body, request params or anything. There will be just a message object that will come up. I'll say test request message. Okay, cool. And I'll say return new test response. And in the this I'll say received. Okay, data parameter I'll say received. It has already prepared a constructor for me. Okay, all our constructor has prepared a constructor for me. Cool. And now what we're going to say is that we will say at the rate message mapping to slash let's say ping. Okay, what does this mean? That the client can send a request to slash ping, slash app slash ping. Okay, and I'll say a send to slash topic slash ping. Okay, that when the server is going to send the data, the client has to listen to slash topic slash ping. Currently, you might be thinking, sir, don't you think this is like a request response only? That the client is going to send a request to slash app slash ping, and we are going to send a response back to the message broker, and client is going to listen to slash topic slash ping. You might get a feeling that, okay, this is looking like a request response lifecycle, but I'll give you more examples where client will not initiate anything and the server will still keep on sending the request. But for the initial setup, I'm doing it. Okay, so we'll see some more experiments. Coming back. So you can see our ping check is ready. Our ping check is ready. Now what I'll do is I'll open VS Code maybe. Okay. I'll say open. And let's Uber Spring project. I'll create a new folder. I'll say socket web client. Create, open. I'll create a new file, index.html. And I'm not going to go into much of the JavaScript code, to be very honest. You guys can read that yourself. What I'll do is I'll just copy paste probably everything from here. Copy and paste. Make sense? And I'll or let's do one thing. I'll use the CDNs. So first of all, let's bring the basic HTML, and there are two CDNs that we can use. Okay, let me bring that. Can you see? There are two CDNs. One is for Stomp.js and one is for Sock.js. Okay, these are the two basic CDNs that we can use. Got it? Okay, cool. And let's say why I'm not keeping their request, because they are technically collecting it from their own local resources. CDNs are better, I believe. Okay. I'll say I believe basic HTML everybody knows, so I'm not going to go too much. I'll say input, type text, ID, let's say what, name. Okay, and button, submit, and let's say on click connect. We're going to call connect. Let's click on connect. Okay, first we'll do connect, and then we'll say dev input, button, submit, and I'll say on click submit. Okay, so you can see I have two buttons. One button is to initiate a connection. The second button is when we will type something and we will send that. Okay, now let's write the functionality for both of these buttons. Okay, so I'll write an inline JS only. I'm writing an inline JS only. Okay, cool. So I'll say function connect. I'll write a function connect. So the moment somebody will click on this connect button, this function connect is going to execute. Are you able to get this point? So this button has an event listener. It's a DOM event listener. Okay. How we create this? We will say where I'll say const socket is equals to new. We'll use a sock.js object. Okay. And what's the let's try to run our Spring Boot server and see if everything is up and running or not. If anything will fail, we'll see. Oh, it says nothing to run. 1 second. What happened? Okay. Okay, let's do one thing. I'll say test response is equals to test response dot builder dot build dot data received and return response. Okay, make it inline and received. Okay, let's run the server again. What's happening? It's not able to find the builder. Why is that? Interesting. Cannot find the symbol dot builder. We have a builder annotation here, right? Are we missing something for Lombok? I don't think we are missing anything. Oh, bean for what? One second. Test controller. We have marked it as @controller. This is getter setter already. Getter setter already. Are we missing anything? We have not added the annotation processor and everything. Yeah, one second. So configuration processor. Yeah. Oh, how did I forget about it? I like these bare minimum things always. Let's try again. Let's run the server again. One second. Annotation processor of Lombok. Do we have to separately add it? One second. Do we have to separately add it? Let's see. Line 47. One second. Oh, got it. Oh, I was missing this. So this is a compile only. There is an annotation processor also will add. Oh, got it. Most of the time this gets automatically added, but yeah, let's do this. And now it's building up. Yeah, looks good. So again, this server is up. The server is up on port 8080. Okay. So here I'll give the address as http:// localhost 8080 / and what was the server configuration we gave? In the configuration, you can see we gave it as /ws. /ws. Now I can see we have a socket object. Make sense? Okay. So what I'll do is I'll make a global Stomp client, initially null. And now we'll set up the Stomp client. I'll say Stomp client is equals to, there is a function called as stomp.over socket. Okay, you can see, if you remember, I mentioned, right, that Stomp is a protocol that works on top of socket. So we'll create a socket object, and then on top of it, we'll prepare this Stomp object, right? And you can see that here as well. Stomp.over. You don't need to bang your head like, what is this syntax? It's a library thing. How the library expects us to set it up, we'll set it up. Okay, cool. Now we have the Stomp ready. I'll say Stomp client.connect. So we'll initiate a connection. We will initiate a connection. Can you see? Here as well, we'll initiate a connection. We can pass an empty object. This is for if you want to add some extra configuration. And once the connection is done, there is the callback that we are going to receive. Are you able to get this point? Inside this callback, I'll say console.log connected. Okay. Console.log connected. So let's see whether we are able to set up this connection or not. I'll use the live server from my VS Code and turn it up. Okay. One second. Cool. Okay. Can you see this is the UI, connect and submit. And let me do one thing. Let's not use Arc. Wait. Let's use Chrome only. sometimes compatibility issue comes up. Let's open Chrome only. Okay. So inspect console. Okay. Now, if I click on, and let's also keep an eye on the network tab. If I click on connect, can you see there is a request that has been sent? Once again. Oh, my bad. Let's click on all. Okay. And refresh once. Okay. Can you see there is a WebSocket request? The moment we reload, there was a WebSocket connection that has been sent. Yes or no? Okay. And the moment I click on connect, it says opening WebSocket and it says, whoops, lost connection to this. Okay. Can you see why is it losing connection? Why is it losing connection? Can everybody read this error? So there is this coarse error coming up. What is coarse error? So if you have one client that is running on some other address and you have the server running on other address, so they two, both of these two are considered to be of different origins, right? So either you have to make them come from a same origin, like the same client is the same server only, or you can go to your WebSocket configuration here, right? And here I can say dot set allowed origins to star, so that all the origins are now allowed. All the origins means that everyone, any client can connect from anywhere. Refresh. And if I click on connect, one second. Okay, one second. Let's do one thing. Let's add this client manually. Maybe it doesn't take star here. Let's add this client manually. Okay. Let's refresh, connect. And can you see a WebSocket connection is up? Make sense, everyone? Can you see it is giving some logs? It's the sock.js logs altogether, right? And you can see there was a WebSocket connection that it actually initiated, right? Can you see? There was a WebSocket connection that it actually initiated to /:8080. Make sense? So we have a WebSocket connection up and running. Got it, guys? We have a WebSocket connection up and running. Yes or no? Okay. Now, what I can do is I can say, once the connection has been set up, I can add all the subscriber. So I can say subscribe to /topic/ping, right? What was the subscription endpoint? /topic/ping. And at any point of time, if any message comes here, okay, function, if any message comes here, I'll say console.log received a new message from server message. Make sense? Okay. And I'll make this submit function submit. Okay. Inside this submit function, let's say what I'm going to do is I'll say, let's give this one an ID. So I'll say const value is equals to document dot get element by ID name. I believe everybody knows this much HTML. Name dot value. And we can say, now I'll say stomp client dot send. Okay. We are going to send to /app/ping. Okay. And let's see what's the format that you send in. So you can say send. If you want to send some configuration, you can send that, and then you can do JSON.stringify. So you have to do stringify this. So I'll say empty object and JSON.stringify. And what do you have to stringify? I'll make an object with the data property as value. Okay. And let's do one thing. I will say sout received message from client, and I'll say message dot get data. Okay. Let's restart the server. Okay. And if I refresh here as well, cool. I'll connect. You can see connection has been set up. And can you see the moment connection has been set up, can you see the logs? It has already subscribed to something like /topic/ping. Why? Because I have written the subscription here. I have written the subscription here. Okay. Now let's send something. I'll say hello. If I click on submit, can you see it is receiving a message from the server received, and on the server side we are receiving a message hello. Are you able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat, guys. Are you able to get this point? Okay. Now let's try something. Now currently what happened is client sent a request, server received it and sent a response. This doesn't give too much feel about WebSocket, right? So let's take that feel. Let's take that feel. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not sure how many of you guys know about this annotation @schedule Spring Boot. Okay. So here. So there is an annotation called as @scheduled, right? All you have to do is you have to just enable scheduling, right? And what you can do is at any point of time to any method, if you give this annotation and @scheduled and you give the parameter fixed delay, what will happen is this function will automatically get executed after every delay. This delay is in millisecond. Are you able to get this point? Okay. So how about I have a message, I have a function and that function is written on the server, and that function after every 2 seconds sends some messages to the client. How about that? Okay, so let's do it. So first of all, what you have to do is you have to create a configuration class where you can do enable scheduling. So I'll say configuration. I'll create a new class, Java class, and I'll call this class also as, let's say, schedule config. All you have to do is just say @configuration so that Spring knows it's a configuration class, and enable scheduling. That's, you can keep this class empty. You can keep this class empty. And now inside your test controller, what you can do is you can write a function, right? And guys, you guys tell me, if you have to send back to something, what is the annotation that is sending back to the client? Which annotation is sending back to the client? Send to. So let's say I have a method @send to /topic/schedule. I'll say @schedule, and let's say there is a fixed delay of, let's say, 2000 millisecond. That means every 2 seconds. And I'll say public string send periodic message. Okay, now I'm not receiving anything from the client. I'm just sending to the client. What happened to this? Nothing. I'll say send periodic message from server. Okay, and I can maybe add the current time in milliseconds, system dot current time in millis. Okay, this method. Now can you see there is no subscriber of this method on the client side? There is no subscriber of this method on the client side, so we are not receiving anything as of now. So ideally what we should do is we should write a subscriber to /topic/scheduled. Okay, received a new scheduled message from server. Okay, and let's close the server. Let's save it. Let's restart the server and let's refresh this. Okay, so the server is up. You can see the server is up. And if I click on connect, so it has subscribed to /topic/scheduled. Okay, let's see now what happens. Okay, so this has a 2000 millisecond delay. Okay, nothing is coming up. 1 second. Let's see if this function is executing or not. I'll say s out executed periodic function. Let's restart the server once. Okay, this is sending the executed periodic function. It lost the connection. Let's reconnect. Okay, and let's see. let's see, what did we write? /topic/scheduled. So we have subscribed to this. Let's see why the message not coming up. Did we miss something? Let's see on the network tab, are we receiving something? Messages. Okay, so we did receive the heart. I'll talk about this messages as well, but okay, one second. Let's see if the send is working or not. Let's refresh, connect. Okay, I'll say hello and send it on the WebSocket. So we actually send this one. Okay, so this is working. And on the console, we have received a new message. Let's quickly check what might be the issue. Okay, so I guess there is one more method. Instead of send to, I guess send to is only used with message mapping. There is one more way in which we can achieve this. There is one more way in which we can achieve this particular thing. Okay, so what we can do is there is a class called as simple messaging template. Okay, simple message. It's simple messaging template, but pronoun like I believe they wanted to name it simple, but okay. And maybe we can auto wire it, or you can have a constructor injection, anything. Okay. And let's see why it's failing. It's not having initialize. Okay. Let's do one thing. Let's have a test controller. Public test controller. This is equals to simple messaging template. Okay. And instead of returning it with this, okay, I will say simple messaging template dot convert. Okay, so yeah, you can see there is a method called as convert and send to user. Let's use this method because I guess the @send to is used in conjunction with message mapping only. If you want to just directly send, probably this is the ideal way, and we should have a void. Okay, it doesn't want to return anything. Okay, and we want to send it to /topic/scheduled. Okay, one second. Let's close this. Let's write it again. Simple messaging template dot convert and send. I'll say periodic. Message sent, and I'll say the system dot current time in millis. Make sense? So this is the message that we will keep, and we'll pass one more argument. Once again, we'll pass one more argument where we will type the topic. I'll say /topic/scheduled. Okay, let's restart. So we restarted. Refresh. I'll connect. And can you see it has received a scheduled message? Can you see it's receiving the scheduled messages? Can you guys see this? Every time when it receives a message, this periodic message sent. Can you see periodic message sent? And can you see there is a different timestamp? So now client is not doing anything. Like my cursor is here. I'm not doing anything. And what is happening? Using this particular method, server is automatically sending the data to the client. Client has to do nothing. Are you able to get this point? And I can do something very simple as well. For example, the moment we receive it, I'll say document dot create element li const li is equals to this. I'll say li dot text content is equals to message, and document dot get element by id list dot append child li. Save it, refresh, connect. Okay. Now can you see it's automatically every 2 seconds it's adding this particular message. Are you able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat, guys. And if you just want this message body, so I guess on the message property, there is a dot body parameter. Save it, refresh. If I click on connect, you can see now only the message that is coming up from the server is coming up. Now, a client has to do nothing. Client has to do nothing. Okay. And in fact, what even can you do is you don't even need to connect manually. Like currently this connect function executes when you hit this connect button. Maybe you do not even need this button. What you can do is you can say document dot add event listener DOM content loaded. And on this DOM content loaded, I will call connect. Save it, refresh. And can you see, I don't even now need to manually connect. The moment you come on this page, it's sending the messages altogether. Do you now realize the power of WebSocket? If client has to send something, it can still send something, no problem. Like if I have to send, hey there. And the moment I click on submit, can you see, we received message from client also. So meanwhile, client messages are also coming up. Server is also sending the message. You don't have to wait for a request response lifecycle. Are you able to get this point? And for example, if let's say there is one more client that I open, can you see 58, 64, 58? Can you see on both the clients, it's correspondingly together sending the messages? Yes or no, guys? So if let's say you have to make something like a chat app, making a chat app is going to be pretty simple. Let's see. What I can do is, this was for testing. This was for testing. So let's stop it. Let's stop it. Okay. Let's stop this one as well. Save it, save it. Okay. Cool. I'll make a very simple, like I don't want to go into the UI stuff much. Okay. And I'll keep things very simple. I'll say input ID is equals to, let's say, message. Okay. And here we will say placeholder name, placeholder message. Save it. Can you see there are two text boxes, name and messages. Okay. What I'm going to do is, let's say I'll make a new topic. Okay. I'll keep this commented code so that you guys can keep it as a reference. I'll make a message mapping of /chat. And I'll say a send to /topic /message. Okay. Anything you can keep. I'll say public chat response. Let's close this for a moment. Chat response, and I'll say chat message, and I will receive a chat request. Okay, let's make this chat response and chat request class. So create class chat response. Okay. So in the chat response, what do we need? Let's say we need a private name, private string name, private string message, private string timestamp. Okay, when the message was sent. Okay. And here at the rate, again, getter, setter, builder. Okay. And let's make the chat request class as well. And I guess it made the classes here only. So let's do one thing. Let's move these classes in DTO, refactor, chat request. I'll copy the annotations from here. And these two. In the request, we'll just receive name and message. Okay. In the controller, we have this. Okay. So now what we're going to do is, let's see why there is an error coming up. Okay, because we are not returning it. Okay. So now what we're going to do, whenever a client is going to send the message, let's say now I want to prepare a chat app. Okay. Let's see the architecture for a chat app. There is a client one. there's a client 2. You can have more clients as well, no problem. Client. And now you have a server. It's a socket enabled server. Okay. Let's say there is a client 3 as well. Okay. Now they all three want to chat together, because I believe everybody understands that a one-on-one chat is a special case of a group chat where the length of the people involved in the chat is 2. Okay. If you want to prepare a one-on-one chat or a group chat, everything is a group chat. Just the one-on-one chat has a limit on the length of the number of users. Okay. Now let's say client 1 wants to send the message. Now just think about it. If client 1 wants to send the message to all the clients, one way is client 1 sends manually message to client 2 also. Client 1 message manually sends message to client 3 also, and other clients also. That's too much. That's too much to ask. What client 1 is going to do is client 1 is going to send the message to the server. Because this server is WebSocket enabled, this server is going to technically broadcast this message to other clients. Are you able to get this point? And do you understand why this architecture helps? Because let's say client 1 has opened WhatsApp, for example, from their mobile phone, and client 1 has opened it from, let's say, laptop also. Okay, let's say you have WhatsApp opened in your mobile and your laptop. Now from your mobile, you sent a message to a group where client 3 and client 4 is also present. Now the moment you send the message, that message also reflects on your laptop also, right? Yes or no? So technically you send the message to the server, and server will broadcast everybody in the room. So it will broadcast to your laptop as well. Are you able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat. Make sense? So that's what we are going to do. So one client is going to send the request. Sir, I want to send only to client 2. How the server will know? Somnath will come to those things as well. Let's, like, you have to logically write the things, but for now, let's see how a basic chat server is working. Because as I said, you have to like just logically put the limit to the request, right? But there is going to be something like a destination variable also that you can use, but I'll come to that. Just wait for it for a moment. Okay, cool. Now guys, so we are going to receive a request. Okay, so I will say chat response is equals to chat response dot builder dot build. Inside this builder, I will say dot name as request dot get name dot message as request dot get message. Okay, and I'll attach one more thing. I will attach one more thing, that is dot timestamp as system dot current time in millisecond dot. Okay, this variable is what? It's a long, right? So you can say something like this. Okay, and this response we are going to send back. I'll say return response. We'll make a single liner inline. Okay, and now what we're going to do is at any point of time we are going to subscribe storm client dot subscribe to slash topic slash message, and I'll say function data. I'll say console.log data. Let's see what data and data.body. Let's see what data.body actually comes up. Let's turn up the server. And come here. I'll do a inspect console. Lost connection. Let's refresh. Okay, why it's losing connection? Why it has a CORS policy issue? One second. Let's one second. Let's see. Sanket, the message is hello, and if I submit, it's not connecting. Let's see what is the issue. We have allowed the origin to 5500. That's good. Okay. Allow origin to everyone. Storm. Okay, you can use the method set allowed origin patterns. Set allowed origin patterns, and then you can put a star. Now it should go for everyone. Otherwise, you have to manually reconfigure it every time. Still it is coming up. Let us see why. Localhost 80, what is the origin going? Okay, it's not setting the origin header. Origin is this. And okay, what's the problem? Let's restart the server maybe. Here. Let's restart the front-end server. Close it. Okay, now the socket connection is set up, I guess. Hello. Tomcat server, port 8080. What happened in between? Let's restart once. Okay, it says started. Localhost 8080, this not found. Okay, did we make some changes? Add endpoint, we have added the endpoint. Let's close this tab once. I'll say localhost 5500. Inspect console. Yeah, now it works. I'm not sure. Chrome is moody. Okay, looks good. Now it's working. I'll say Sanket Singh is the name. Message is hello. Submit. Can you see received a new message from the server? And 1 second. Oh, my bad. We should say /app/message. Okay. We have to send it to /app/message, right? This is the function receiving. So this is receiving it on /chat, not even message, /chat. Save it. Refresh. Sanket. Hello. Submit. And can you see it says name null, message null, timestamp this. Okay. Let us see why. Because in the request, it was not able to get the name and get the message. That's why get name and get message looks like null. So let's see. And can you see why the name and get message is coming as null? Because here I'm not sending any name and message. Can you guys see everyone? Say yes or no in the chat. I'm not sending a name and message. So let's send that. Copy, paste, name, message. And here we'll say name message. Save it, refresh. Sanket Singh, hello, submit. And can you see name is coming up, message is coming as timestamp is coming up. So what I'll do is on the subscriber, I will say const li item. I'll create an li item. I'll say li dot text content. I'll say text content is going to be message dot name, message dot body, and I'll say plus, or let's do it like this. Message dot name colon message dot timestamp hyphen dollar message dot const date message is equals to data dot body. Okay. Message dot name, message dot timestamp, message dot message. Save it, and I'll append it to the list. Very simple thing. Save it. I'll say Sanket Singh. Hello. Submit. Okay, undefined. Let's quickly check Why is that? MSG, let's see. Submit. This is coming up. What is missing then? Message.name. Oh, one second. I guess the type is string, guys. If you see type of message, probably it's a string. Yes, it's a string. How do you convert a string to a JavaScript object? You do json.parse data.body. Now, if you will send it, can you see now the messages are coming up? So now let's see things in action. Let's see things in action. Let's refresh. Let's have one more tab in a new window. Let's see. Okay. So let's say the name is Sanket Singh and the message I want to say, hello, bro. The moment I submit, can you see on both the ends, we are receiving it at the same time. Here, let's say this is Sarthak. It's a what's up, bro. Submit and up and running. Can you see? The chat infrastructure is working for us. Yes or no, guys? How many of you guys are able to get this point? What's happening here actually? Now, let's say you don't want, let's say you want to make a one-on-one chat. In a one-on-one chat, technically, every chat should be having, let's say, some unique identifier, like how the infrastructure of a chat should look like in terms of database is on the DB. There should be a chat room ID, or let's say room ID. There should be, if let's say it's a one-on-one chat, there should be a participant 1 ID. There should be a participant 2 ID. If there are multiple people, then there should be an array of participants. But the important part is the room ID. Can I say that, guys? The important part is the room ID. Yes or no? So now what you can do is, instead of just receiving messages from every room, you can say /chat/room like this and send back to /message/room. And here, apart from the chat request, there is something called as @destination variable string room. So this room parameter is going to be received as a variable here. Are you able to get this point? And now every request that will come to /chat/ a particular room ID will now only be sent back to the same room. Are you able to get this point? So for example, let's say, where are we sending here? Let's say I say /chat/123, /chat/123. Okay. And we are going to subscribe to /message/123. Okay, save it. And if I go here, if I refresh, Sanket Singh, hello, and let's say submit. Once again, let's see, something is failing. Okay, it has received the request. Oh, okay. Again, it's not connecting. Once again, guys. Chrome is very moody now. Not sure why is this happening, but what happens to it again and again? Access allow origin. Is this? Oh, sorry, my bad. Server is not up. My bad. Chrome is okay. Server was down. And copy, close it, inspect, console. Okay, now. I'm doing a hard refresh only. Nothing and anything. Okay, let's try with Arc browser. Once again, let's see. Maybe Chrome is okay. There is some issue with my Chrome only. Maybe my Chrome version is something problematic. If I refresh, yeah, there is some issue with my Chrome only. Okay, let's say Sanket Singh. Hello. And submit. Can you see now we are receiving? Now, what you can actually do is in the URL only, let's say you can have some query params that can have some room ID /room/ let's say 123. And from this query param, right? For example, if you do, there is something called as window dot location. If you do, can you see? It has your URL, right? It has your corresponding URL. Can you see? Window dot location. And then the remaining path as well. For example, if you go to /room/123, you can see it says cannot get room 123. But if you do window dot location, it has /room/123. So everybody can have your their corresponding room ID. And if you want to open this page, first of all, you will make a request to the server. The server will authenticate that whether you are a valid participant of that room or not. And once you are a valid participant of that room, they will allow you to open this page. The moment you open this page, there is a socket connection specific for this room. And now whatever messages come inside this room will only be sent back to this particular room only. Are you able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat. So in this way, you can collect messages from one room and then broadcast back it to another room. Broadcast back it to everybody in the same room. Are you able to get this point? Is this point making sense? So all of that custom logic you have to write yourself. I don't think that's very complex because you know how to make a web page, you know how to make an API call through the web. Like if you're making a React server, then though it's very easy. If you're making plain JS server, if you're making a React client, then it's simple. If you're making a plain JS client, then again, you might face some issues altogether here and there because you have to write a lot of code. But then all you have to do is the moment somebody goes to this page, you can use React router. The moment you load this page, you can make an API call, validate yourself that you are a valid participant of that room. Then the page will open. The moment page will open, you can actually connect here. And there is a, just like this, there is a Stomp.js client for React as well. Stomp.js and Sock.js for React. Okay, so you can have some React clients as well. React Stomp. Can you see? So all you have to do, just install it and then send message. If you have to set up the client, this is how you set up the client. And can you see, this is where you mention all the topics. Okay, and yeah, pretty simple. Got it, guys? Everyone, say yes or no in the chat. Anybody having any questions as of now? Okay, now let's say you might be having a thought that, okay, sir, let's say 5 people are in a room. I only want to send the message to one user. How can I send that? Anybody, it should be a pretty straightforward thing. How can you send the message to somebody specific? Anyone with any thoughts? Very good, Akash. Akash has a fair good answer. What about rest of the people? Okay. So what you can do is, first of all, just like slash topic, there is something like slash q in Storm for, oh, sorry, q in Storm for Spring Boot. If you see here, uh, one second. Da-da-da. You can see, you can register a queue broker as well. Now, what the queue broker actually does is it focuses on point to point messaging instead of a broadcasting. So whenever you have to broadcast, you broadcast on slash topic slash something. Okay. Whenever you have to broadcast, you broadcast to dot convert instance slash topic slash something. Are you able to get this point? But whenever you have to send a one-on-one chat or one-on-one message, you do to slash q slash something. Are you able to get this point? First thing. Second thing. So what you can do is here, if you close this on the WebSocket config, you can register slash topic and you can register slash q. Okay. Slash q. Now what you can do is inside the test controller, you can have one more controller method. Copy, paste, slash chat room. Okay. Now you have the data for the room. Okay. And what you can do is you can say slash user ID as well. Are you able to get this point? Everybody in the chat. You can have a slash user ID as well, guys. Yes or no? Okay. And you can send back to also a slash, let's say user ID. And you can say slash private chat and slash private message. Make sense? And I will say private chat message. Now, just like the destination variable string, you will be having one more destination variable at the rate destination variable string user ID. Got it? Now, you want to just send to this specific user ID. That's what this send to is going to do for you. Okay. Now, the only thing is when you by default return it, it tries to return directly to the slash topic message broker. So ideally what you should do is instead of using a send to, you should use your simple messaging template. Copy and paste it here. I'll say chat response is equals to this. Okay. And here you can say slash q slash, let's say private chat. Are you able to get this point? I'll say slash q slash private chat. And in the payload, I can return response. And you can make this function void. Getting my point, guys? What I'm trying to do here? Private message, private chat, whatever you want to send, you can send. Okay. And one more thing, you have to add the room here also, right? So add the room here also. Slash q slash private message slash room. Make sense? Everyone? Yes or no in the chat? Okay. And one more parameter this expects. If you see simple messaging template, there is one more function. Can you see? convert and send to a user. So you put the user, you put the destination, and you put the payload. So here you can put the user ID. So you can say convert and send to user. Can you see, guys? So this method you can actually use, and corresponding to this method, you can write a listener on the front end. Make sense, everyone? So if you want to just send it to somebody specific, you can use this kind of an infrastructure. Any questions, anyone? So the only thing, like, I know it's still simple, but the only thing is this configuration. Once you have this configuration set up properly, you have everything set up properly. If you turn up the server, you can see everything is up and running. This configuration is the only thing that you have to do. Right now, instead of app, if you do a /foo here, then the messages that you are going to send is going to be on /foo/something. You can even configure multiple one of them. You can also have /apps. You can also have /foo. Like you can have one controller that collects all of them for /app because it's the default one. You don't need to specifically mention. You can have a foo controller that collects everything for /foo. So no problem there. Guys, time for questions. Time for questions. On the JavaScript part, again, there's not much. What we have done is we have created a WebSocket connection using sock.js and Storm. And then you have an event listener .connect. This event listener is executed whenever the client and server has established the connection. Once the connection has established, you will write all your subscriber here that what should happen if some message come on this, or what should happen when some message comes on this. Apart from that, if you have to send something from the client, you can use the same client object and do a .send on this particular event and send your data altogether. Correspondingly here, you will receive the data. Make sense, everyone? Guys, are you able to understand what's actually going on here? And to be very honest, you will see similar architecture on socket.io also. If you use socket.io, for example, if you go to get started, on the client side, 1 second. Okay. Let me show you the client side. io.on index.html. Okay, can you see on the client side? Here also you create a socket is equals to IO object. This creates a WebSocket connection. Here you can mention the server URL as well. And can you see there you have similar io.on connection, right? What is the method we have? We have said this.subscribe. Instead of on, you have a subscribe method. You put the message connection here, and then whatever you want to do on that event, you will mention that here. Okay, for example, if you want to emit events, So from client, if you want to send something, you say socket.emit. Here you say client.send. On the server side, if you have to receive something, you have to do socket.on. For us on the server side, you just have to write a couple of functions. On the client side, if you have to receive something, so you see client side socket.on chat message, we have subscribe. So similar kind of an infrastructure you can see. Make sense, guys? Any questions as of now? Guys, please let me know if you have any questions, anything. Like you can see preparing chatting where there is a seamless interaction, no clients, like no client request kind of a thing you need. It's pretty simple with WebSockets. You just need to know what's the coding implementation is going to look like. Okay. So there is this article from TopTal. I would highly recommend you guys to read this article from TopTal. Okay. They actually talk about it. And if you carefully go here, can you see? They also talk about the fact that how to prepare a WebSocket client. Currently, our client is a JavaScript client. So this is a similar code that we also wrote. But let's say if you want to create a WebSocket client with Spring only. Let's say you want to have a WebSocket client with Spring Boot only. How can you have that? So there is a WebSocket Stomp client object that you can create and you can auto-wire, right? You can create a custom session handler. And then on this Stomp client, you can start sending the messages like this. Okay. And then if you want to subscribe, you can write a subscription like this. Are you able to get this point? Okay, so similar kind of an APIs are there. We are going to write it for our app, but I believe the concept around how to set up WebSocket is making sense. Everyone, is the concept of how to set up WebSocket making sense? Okay, coming back. So now this, I'll separately push this service. Let's say I'll separately push this service so that you can check the code that we are writing. Added Storm WebSocket server. And do you understand why we are having a Storm protocol? Because eventually what data you are sending is just a single message from client to server and server to client. There is no request. I would say, what do you say, response code or anything like header or anything. It's just a message that is traveling. And okay, before we before we move to the next topic, I want to share you something interesting. So if you go here on the network tab, if I refresh, can you see there is one call to load the document. There is one call to sock.js and stomp.js. And there is one call to set up the WebSocket connection. Can you see? There is one call to set up the WebSocket connection. Can I say that? Okay. Inside this WebSocket connection on your browser, there is this header. This is like for setting up the whole connection and everything. But then you have a property of messages. Now here you will see all the messages that the server is sending back to the client and the client is sending to the server. I'll say Sanket, hello. If I submit, can you see there is a new message that has been dropped? Can you see? So you sent a message and what are you receiving? This. So in fact, if I go back to my server and if I do this, @scheduled, save it on the client for @scheduled, we do this, save it. And if I refresh, okay. Okay, now this is also throwing a some issue with my, one second. Let's open Mozilla. Arc is also based off Chrome only, so. Inspect. Okay. Lost connection. Why? Oh, server is not running. That's why lost connection. Oh, so maybe then that's why Arc was also throwing error. No, it is still. Still lost connection. Once again, why? Hmm. Just a second, guys. Let me restart my browser. Okay, now I can see periodic messages are coming up. If I inspect network, okay, and if I refresh, okay. Now, if you see these messages, can you see automatically whatever messages are being received on the client side? Can you see it's logging all those messages? Because on the network tab, can you see there is no other request that is being sent? Can you see the network tab is now clean? There is nothing more on the network tab. Now, this WebSocket connection was set up. Now, over this connection, only all these messages are being exchanged. You're not making any another TCP connection or you're not making new HTTP requests altogether. Can you guys observe that? Can you guys observe that? Say yes or no in the chat. Okay. And in fact, if you open, let's say if you search for Postman WebSocket, you can also send WebSocket connection request with Postman. You can see, let me open Postman. If you want to test things, maybe Postman setup can also help you. So probably, let's see. Oh, this one not. If you open Postman, okay, and let's make a new request, add request. Okay, and let's see, where do we set up the type a new method. Okay, let's see. They say select new WebSocket to open a raw WebSocket connection. New WebSocket. Okay, here we have to put the URL. So I'll take the URL from here, copy and paste. If I click on connect, it says not found. 1 second. Could not connect. 1 second. Why? It's not able to find the request URL. Oh, my bad. Can you see we have to send it like WS colon // uh let's see, postman connect postman with Storm WebSocket. Okay, it's opening the same thing once again. WebSocket secure. Okay, I'll separately check. Maybe they have something new that we might have to configure. Should ideally work. /WS headers, 6 hidden headers. Okay, let's do one thing. Maybe some header is missing. So if I click on network, status code, request method, status code, switching protocol. Request URL. Okay, I'll separately check. It should ideally connect. Maybe some issue with my postman. Settings, handshake, timeout. Okay. 5 seconds maybe. 2. Sorry, guys. It says 404. One second. Why the request URL is... Strangely, the request URL it is taking is not correct. Cancel. Don't save. Let's make a new request. WebSocket / localhost 8080 WebSocket connect. It's taking the request URL as HTTP. That's a bit strange. Okay, I'll check separately why it's actually throwing an error. Okay. What do with HTTP? This one, it's not gonna work. Okay, I'll check how you can use Postman maybe. Maybe for Postman we might have to do some configurations. But yeah, okay. Let's come back to our Uber app. So now we have let's just quickly commit also. I was committing the request. Let's close the server. And I'll make a new repo. Okay, new repository. Socket server with Spring Boot. Okay. Cool. So you can check out this repo. And this will actually tell you how to set up your socket server with Spring Boot. Make sense, guys? Everyone are able to get this point, like how exactly things. And if you want, I can push the client also. Maybe just the index.html only. What I'll do is I'll make a new file, index.html. If you want the index.html, you can get it from here only. Okay. Git add all. Okay, refresh. Source main. There is an index.html. You can fetch the index.html from here. Okay. And the server should be up and running. Looks good. Got it, guys? Everyone? Any questions from anyone? Okay. So now if we come back, now we had a location service. Inside the location service, we were able to get what? We were able to fetch the nearby drivers, and we were able to store the location of the drivers. Can I say that? So now if you want to store the location of this driver by making an API request, you can do that. Or if you want, then you can also set up a WebSocket connection so that pretty consistently you can send the request altogether to the server. Anything you can actually do. Got it? Got it, guys? Everyone, guys, please reply. Are you able to understand? Like this API save driver location, you can either send a normal API request, that's okay, but you can send the WebSocket connection as well. You can prepare a WebSocket connection as well. Got it? Okay. If you remember the architecture that we talked about, if I open Discord, I guess we have an image on Discord. We talked about this. We talked about this kind of an architecture, right? That there will be a client socket service. Technically, this client socket service will be communicating to a lot of people, right? Whenever there will be a booking request, booking service is going to make a request to the location service. The location service is going to fetch the nearby drivers, and then post that, once you are going to fetch the nearby drivers, you are going to initiate a request to the client socket service that, hey, client socket service, we might need some driver to accept this request. Then through WebSocket, it is going to populate the request to drivers. Any one of the driver can actually respond with a yes. And then this client socket service will respond back to the booking service. This response can be done via queue, or maybe booking service and client service can also have a, what do you say, WebSocket connection only, because Stomp also uses a queue only. And then booking service will say, okay, now we have a driver. And then the booking will be enabled. And then you can notify your passenger that you have a brand new driver associated. Are you able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat. For that, what do we need? We need a booking service. Don't you think? For that, we need a booking service. Yes or no, guys? Do we have a booking service as of now? Guys, do we have a booking service as of now? No. So ideally, we should start preparing a booking service as well. And then we can spend some time to connect all of this. Okay. Just a second. Just give me 2 minutes, guys. Let me bring some water. Okay. So now the booking service should be a straightforward thing, but the most important thing about booking service is going to be that most of the business logic around booking is going to be more or less present here. Okay. I'll make a new Spring project. Uber booking service. Uber booking service. Next, we'll need a lot of things here. Spring Boot DevTools, Lombok, configuration processor, then Spring Web. Then we will need MySQL driver, because we want to connect to the repositories and everything. And what else? We will need the WebSocket connection as well. Can I say that? We need the WebSocket connection as well, because this booking service might be preparing a WebSocket connection with the corresponding socket service. Anything else that we need? As of now, I don't think so. If I click on create, yeah, that we have to manually add, no? Prompt से नहीं आएगा, no? ठीक है? And if you go to the location service, not the location service, I guess, auth service, we need the entity service as well, right? We need the entity service as well in the booking service. So I'll go to build.gradle. I'll come up here, paste it. I'll refresh. And we have the entity service as well. And we need one more thing. We need all of these configurations as well. Copy. And application.properties. Paste it here. Okay. One more thing that we will need is Maven local. That we should get it from Maven local. Okay. Cool. If I turn up the server, you can see the server is up and running. Make sense? Make sense, guys? Okay. Now we have not talked about one thing. It's a very small and simple thing. If you carefully see this application.properties, currently we are just hard coding all of this data. Ideally, we should not hard code all of this data. Ideally, what should happen is this should come from some secure place, like maybe your environment variable. Every system has their own set of environment variables configured, right? Those environment variables are local to your machine. It's not exposed to the outer world. And what you can do is Spring has a mechanism using which you can load the data from your environment variables directly. Are you able to get this point? Okay. Now, how do you do that? For example, let's say this password looks like something sensitive. What I'll do is, instead of saying password like this, I'll say $my, or I would say MySQL password. Okay. And I will create a environment variable. In order to create an environment variable, if you're using Windows, there is a separate mechanism. If you're using Linux, there is a separate mechanism. In Windows, I'll tell you for both. Okay. So you can just open your terminal. If you're using Windows, you can say set MySQL password is equals to something. If you're using Windows, you can do something like this as far as I remember. But I have a Mac. In Mac and Linux, you can do export MySQL password is equals to this. Now, what will happen is if I do env, there is a MySQL password environment variable. Now, if you turn up the server, this is going to pick up the MySQL password from your local environment variable. Are you guys able to get this point here? Yes or no in the chat? So this is now going to pick things from your environment variables altogether. Any questions? Also, one more thing I didn't talk about. This application.properties file. You can see we prepare this like the application.properties file only. What you can do is you can, instead of application.properties, you can also make it a, if I rename, you can make it a application.yml. You can make it a YAML file. And how do you write a YAML file? You say Spring application name. Okay. Spring application name. And you call it as Uber booking service. Okay. Then you can say data source and URL. Okay. What is the URL? This is the URL. Okay. Then you can say spring dot data source dot username. What is the username? Root. What is the password? Password is this. Copy paste. Then you can do spring jpa dot show SQL to true. And hibernate dot DDL auto to validate, and server dot port to be, let's say, 8000. Okay. Can you see? You were writing configurations like this. So instead of writing configuration with application.properties, you can also write configuration with application.yml. In that case, you'll be having a YML file, and writing YML files are slightly easier. The only problem is that in YML, indentation matters a lot. So now if you restart the server, it will still pick up all of the configuration, but now you have a pretty more cleaner way to actually implement it. Okay. To be very honest, there is no industry standard or no industry preference as far as I know in using YML or not using YML. It's just a personal preference altogether. You can say it's a new shiny way to do things. Nothing much. Are you able to get this point? Uh, yes, Spring. Oh, my bad. Oh, there should be a server.port, right? Uh, 1 second. I hope you guys are able to hear me. Right. Okay. So this should not be port. There should be a server.port. Oh, sorry, server port. This should be 8000. Okay. This should be 8000. And now if you rerun, can you see now it's on 8000? Thanks for pointing out, Akash. Okay. Because you can see the configuration is server.port. It's not a Spring configuration. It's the Tomcat server configuration. Make sense? Okay, cool. So that's about the application.yml file. Okay. Now what we are going to do is we are going to write a booking service. Okay. That is going to have a couple of things. So we are going to make a new package services. Inside services, we are going to make a new booking service. We're going to mark it as @service. Got it, guys? And here we are going to write most of our logic. Okay. So the first method that, and probably we should not have a direct booking service. Probably what we should have is the iBooking service interface. Again, there's no specific thing. Like if you see C# in a lot of C# code, every interface is, what do you say, prepended with the I. Generally in Java, interface have a direct name and classes have a name of IMPL. So this can be an interface. Okay. This can be your interface. And you can have a class booking service IMPL. Make sense, guys? Without service interface, I can directly create service class. Yes, you can, but the problem will be solid principles. Remember, Somnath? The problem will be solid principles, right? So we should always try to follow them as much as possible. So we will need one method. We will need one method, let's say public void create booking. Okay. And here we should have a booking object coming into the place. Right. Booking. Let's see our entity service. In the entity service, do we have a booking? Yeah, we have a booking model. Why it's not picking the booking model? Let's quickly check external libraries. Com.example. Okay. Once again, it has not loaded our library. So let's just do one thing. I'll do a build clean. Okay. /clean. I'll do a build. Okay. Once again, sorry. This should not be there. Snapshot version is, I guess, correct. Or maybe let's do one thing. There is a Gradle command to reinstall everything. Gradle w command to reinstall dependencies. I guess some refresh something is there. Yeah, refresh dependencies. Okay. Yeah, this one. Refresh dependencies. You can try that. Because I guess when we loaded the project, we didn't mention Maven local. So that's why it didn't download it. So let's just wait for a minute. It's going to re-download everything. You can see Jackson and everything. It's re-downloading. And version also looks probably correct. 0.05 only. I should ideally push it here, so that you also have it. Okay. And cool. Now build successful. Let's try to do again. In the interface, I will say public void create booking. And okay, it's still not getting the booking object. One second, why is that? Okay, we have to it's showing some thing for rebuilding. Let's check. Okay, now I guess it's here. Let's close this file for a moment. Close everything. And let's open the interface. It's not getting. So let's do one thing. Let's remove this from here. Refresh. And let's add it again. Okay. Let's refresh again. And let's see whether we have it now. Okay, now we have it at least. If I say booking, it's not coming in the recommendation. What's the problem. Let's do one thing. Let's restart IntelliJ. Some problem with the recommendation. I guess refresh dependencies does that. Reloading. Let's check for reload Gradle also. Reload Gradle. You can see it might be in the cache, but this generally works. But okay, let's see. We have a review service. Why do we have a review service separately opened? Location service. Okay, now it has opened everything like this. Okay, so yeah, this is the booking service. Let's see. Okay, now it's coming up. It's probably some IntelliJ bug. So public void create booking booking. Make sense, guys? Now things are actually coming up. Okay. And ideally, what should happen is there should be a DTO, new package DTO, which will be having a new Java class, create booking DTO at the rate getter at the rate setter at the rate builder at the rate all args constructor at the rate no args constructor. Looks good. Inside the entity service, we have a booking. Okay. So ideally, the passenger details should technically come to us. The passenger details should technically come to us. The start location and the end location should come to us. Can I say that, guys? The start and the end location should come to us. And the start time should come to us. End time, you can maybe calculate based on, let's say, some Google Maps API or something. You can hit a third-party API and fetch it from there, the end time. But for now, I'll maybe hard code it somehow, probably. And total distance, again, probably it can come up from some Google Maps API. The client can send it. We can also figure it out. But it can be these are not mandatory properties, right? So we can keep it as it is. So let's take that. So in the booking service, create booking DTO, we need definitely a private long passenger ID. We need a private exact location, start location, and private exact location, end location. These three parameters, so we will definitely need. Booking status, if you go to the booking status, it's an enum. Initially, it will be in assigning driver phase. The moment we create a booking, it should be in the assigning driver phase. Can I say that, everyone? Okay. So what I'm going to do is we have this DTO. I'll write a controllers. Okay. And I'll write a new class, booking controller. Pretty simple, at the rate REST controller at the rate request mapping slash API slash v1 slash booking and at the rate post mapping to public for now void create booking. Okay. And in the request body, it should take the create booking DTO. Okay. And just like create booking DTO, we should have one more DTO. New booking or create booking response DTO. Okay, in the response DTO, again, we need all of this. And we'll say private long booking ID. We'll be having a booking ID. Okay. And private string booking status. Private optional. You can have a optional parameter of, let's say, driver. We can have an optional driver. Make sense? Because there may be a driver, there may not be a driver. Okay. Anything else in the booking details? Do we need anything else? Maybe we need a booking price and everything. Did we keep a price parameter in the booking? We didn't keep a price, but ideally there should be a price parameter also, right? For every booking, there should be some cost involved. Okay. So maybe you guys can separately add it. I'll add it as a to do here. Okay. I'll add as a to do here, add a pricing property. Okay. You can prepare your own pricing logic also, but okay. Coming back to the controller, we should have return create booking response DTO. And for now, I'll say return, and this should be response entity of create booking response DTO. And I can say new response entity of new DTO http status dot create. Okay, looks good. This should be create booking DTO. Okay. We'll go to the service. We'll mark it as @service. And we'll implement the method. Okay, create booking. And this should also return create booking response DTO. Right, ideally it should not be void, it should be create booking response DTO altogether. For now, I'm doing a return. Make sense? And in the controller, we need an injection, right? So I'll say booking service or private final booking service, public booking controller, booking service, this dot booking service is equals to booking service. Okay, and here we are going to call, let's say this dot, I should just directly say booking service dot create booking DTO. Make sense? And this should expect also create booking DTO, booking details. Simple setup, right, guys? As of now, everything pretty simple, nothing very complex. Got it? Now, the first thing that should happen is that we have the booking details, right? Okay. So based on these booking details, we should try to create a booking. To create a booking, what do you need? You need repositories. New package, repositories. And you need a booking repository. Can I say that, guys? This should technically be an interface that extends JPA. Oh, didn't we add Spring Data JPA? Don't tell me we didn't add Spring Data JPA. Yeah, we didn't. So let's take it. Spring Data JPA. Here we go. Copy. Once you write a lot of code, you don't even need to Google it. Most of the common things will be present in some of the already written code for you. Okay, this is up, and now we should say extends JPA repository of type booking, long. Make sense, guys? Okay. So now we have to create a booking. What I'll do is I'll say booking is equals to booking dot builder dot booking status. Initially, when you are creating a booking, what should be the booking status? It should be booking status dot assigning driver. Can I say that? Dot. The start location should be booking details dot get start location. End location should be booking details dot get end location. Yes or no? And we should assign a passenger detail. To get the passenger detail, we need to fetch the passenger. To need to fetch the passenger, you need a passenger repository. Can I say that? Pretty simple stuff. This should be an interface and you need extends JPA repository passenger log. And inside the service, I can say passenger repository. You can see it automatically comes up. Dot find by ID. Booking details dot get passenger ID. This will return you a passenger object, right? Passenger object, passenger. Okay. This returns you an optional. So let's wrap it in an optional. Optional of passenger. What happened? Required type is this. One second. What is the passenger repository looking like? Oh, my bad. This should be passenger. Cool. And here we should say dot passenger as passenger dot get. Okay, cool. Make sense? Can you see we have a booking object? Once we have a booking object, you can say booking repository dot save booking. We'll save a booking inside our DB. Make sense, guys? Anyone having any questions as of now? This is a pretty straightforward process. Whatever we have done it like 10 times now. Yeah. And at last, we should create a booking repository, create booking response DTO. So I'll say create booking response DTO dot builder dot build. And what do we want to send? We have a booking ID. What should be the booking ID? So ideally, how can we get the booking ID? Does the save method return? Yeah, it returns T, right? So I'll say booking, new booking. And I'll say new booking dot get ID. So you have the booking ID. I'll say booking status as new booking dot get booking status. And what else? Dot driver as new booking dot get driver. Dot toString. Okay. We can say new optional. Okay, what's the easy way to return? We can say optional dot off. Optional dot off. Yes. Why it's throwing an error? Required type is java.sql. Oh, my bad. And the create booking, I guess, sorry, response. This driver should be our model driver. My bad. And yeah, looks good. Make sense? Anybody having any questions as of now? Okay. Now, this is like a plain booking CRUD. But when you are creative, this is going to happen. Like this much logic happens when the passenger requests for a new booking. Whenever I click on Uber and I say, this is where I have to start, this is where I have to end. This is like the bare minimum that happens. And from here, what happens is that it should technically, first of all, do a few things. What are the few things it should do? It should ideally make a request to fetch all the nearby drivers from the start location. Can I say that? Okay. Now that is gonna come up from the location service. We have a location controller on which we can make a get request call to slash nearby drivers, and we can send a nearby driver DTO, which is just latitude and longitude. Yes or no? So there are a couple of ways in which we can do this communication. I already talked about that it can be either synchronous or asynchronous. So if you want to make a synchronous, and technically here, what we should do is we should make a synchronous communication, that we have all the nearby drivers and then at least we initiate the request to the drivers. Got it? Everyone? Okay. Now, there is one microservice that is up, right? There is one microservice and there is another microservice. And we want to have a synchronous communication. What you can do is you can make a REST API call here. And then this is going to send back you some response. To make the REST API calls, one option is to use REST template. Another option you already know. What's the other option? What's the other option, guys? Retrofit. Libraries like Retrofit can also help you, right? But let's just quickly take a look at REST template. Using REST template is also very easy. Using Retrofit is also very easy. You can see you create a new REST template. You have this resource URL. And you say REST template dot get for entity, dot post for entity. These kind of methods you have. You put the URL, right? And you get a response back. Are you able to get this point? If you want to send an object, you can say resource URL, and then you have to just say DTO.class, whatever object you want to make a request, like whatever is the response object, you have to pass the response objects class here. Okay. If you have a post request to make, then probably you might have to send some data as well. So you can see this is where you can send the request object as well, and so on. So it's a pretty straightforward and simple library that you can actually use. Are you guys able to get this point? Okay. But do you think creation of, or let me first of all go step by step. Okay. We can make this call using REST template. You can maybe make one more service where you are making calls through Retrofit. Again, you can do things like that. I'll say REST template. REST template is equals to new REST template. Okay. Instead of having this function specific, let's have a private final REST template, and we can say this dot REST template is equals to new REST template. Make sense? Okay. Now what we can do here is make an API call to location service to fetch nearby drivers. So we'll say this dot REST template dot, or we don't even need this. We'll say REST template dot get for entity. Can you see? Get for entity. And here you can mention a resource URL. So I'll have something like private static final. And for now, what you can do is you can say string, and you can say location service. Okay, location service is equals to http:// localhost. What's the location service port? 7777. Okay, so this is the resource URL for location service. Shubham says why we are using this. We have already WebSocket for communication. Shubham, okay. For example, let's say if you have to go to a drive from Delhi to Chandigarh, you'll use your car, right? If you have to go from Delhi, like your home to your nearby stationery shop, do you use a car? पर जा सकते हो ना, उसको रोकेगा तो है नहीं, पर नहीं जाते क्यों? It's a waste of a resource. You don't need WebSocket for everything. WebSocket is only for a bi-directional communication. Here we just have a, like, we don't, like location service probably will never have to populate the request directly to the booking service. Booking service requests it and it will give it a response. Here we can use just simple plain HTTP request instead of a WebSocket. Can I say that? Okay. So in the URL, I'll say location service slash API slash what it is, controller slash API slash location slash nearby slash drivers slash location slash nearby slash drivers. Okay, this is the URL. And what is the response? What's the response? It returns a list of driver location DTO. So I'll copy this driver location DTO and have this DTO here as well. Paste. Okay, driver location DTO. And I will say this is going to return a list of driver location DTO result. Okay, and here we are going to say list dot class maybe. Okay, let us see. Required is a list of this, provided is response entity of list. Okay, so ideally this will be having a response entity of list. Okay, and let's quickly check what's the error. Let's see, how can we actually give this? So this is returning us response entity of this. Okay. Let's see, what's the second argument that we need? Where is that REST template doc? Yeah, here it is. So you have to mention the corresponding class. Okay. And you say this dot class HTTP entity, make a request entity, REST template this. Got it. Just a second, guys. So there is, I guess, one more method. Let's check that. Exchange REST template. Okay. So you want a response entity of byte array. You can do REST template dot exchange this, mention the method, mention the entity, byte class, and the corresponding ID we can pass like this. Okay, so we can use this kind of a method, REST template dot exchange. Okay, it's a more generic API, or we can use this Let's see if we have something for get for entity. Get for entity with response entity. Let's see. Okay. Get specific value from response entity. Let's see what they are mentioning. Response entity, new REST template. Okay. They're suggesting for exchange only. Let's read this. I believe what we can do is, let's not give a complete here. I'll say driver location DTO dot class. Okay, this should technically automatically convert it. Okay. And or let's say list. Instead of this, let's give a list. List of cannot access. Instead of this list, let's receive an array only. And let's make it an array only. Okay, you have to just give the corresponding configuration. Yeah, this works. So you don't need to mention the response entity because we are going to get an array of driver locations, right? So like in the Java world, it's a list, but when you return it from a JSON, it's an array only. So you can just get the corresponding array like this here. Make sense, everyone? Now, this get request needs to send some data as well. If you carefully see the location service, this is expecting a request body as well. So what we should do is the request body is a nearby driver's request DTO. Okay. We don't have that DTO here. Can you see we don't have that DTO here? So let's get that DTO. In the location service, nearby driver request DTO. I'll copy this and paste it here. Makes sense? So we need this DTO. And what we can actually do is, let's see, for get for entity, do we have argument? This is the response type. Okay. And let's see what other things we have. URI variables. We can send the URL variables here. Okay. Does it not? Okay, got it. So can you see in get for entity here, they are not supporting any sending of any request body. Okay. In this particular REST template API, you cannot send any request body. Can you guys see? There are only a couple of methods. You can see get for entity. You can send the URL response type and URI variables, or you can send a map of URI variables, or just the URL and response type. Can you see? There is no provision of sending a request body. Are you able to get this point? So what should we do in that case? Either we can use the custom exchange method. We can also check if retrofit get request with request body. Does retrofit supports the get request with request body? It isn't supposed to mean anything. So, okay, so retrofit also doesn't allow. So then in that case, ideally what we should do is this location service, this should have then a post mapping. Let's make it a post request only in that case. Okay. Although again, like it's like the choice of the libraries that they don't want to send a request body, but in a get request, you can send request body. For example, if you remember, we were sending this request body only inside a get request. So REST just gives a recommendation. If you want, you can implement it. If you want, you can avoid it. Looks like the Java libraries have avoided it. So we can use a post mapping because we want to send it in a request body. Why you want to send it in a request body? Because passenger location is sensitive data. Okay. So we'll come back and let's make it a post for entity only. If you make it a post for entity, you can now send your request object here. Right. So I can say nearby driver request DTO. DTO is, or I would say request is equals to nearby driver DTO builder dot build. And I'll set the latitude and longitude. Dot latitude, we can get the latitude from booking details dot get start location dot get latitude, and longitude we can get from booking details dot get start location dot get longitude, and we can pass this request object altogether. Make sense, everyone? Say yes or no in the chat. And now what we have to do is we have to process this response. We have to process this response. Okay, so how can we process this response is that you can say driver locations is equals to result dot, there is a function called as get body. If you do a get body, you will get the final JSON object that has been returned. Okay, and then maybe, or you can do even one thing. Instead of having this, we can say list of driver location, and we can convert it to a list, right? We can just directly convert it to list. You can say arrays dot as list, and this makes sense, guys. So we'll get a list of driver location. Let's just do one thing. We'll say driver location dot for each driver location, and we'll say s out driver location DTO dot get driver ID plus latitude as driver location DTO dot get latitude plus longitude as driver location DTO dot get longitude. Make sense? We'll just print it out. We'll just print it out. Make sense? Okay. And what you can do is you can do this logic in case the API is successful only. So if you see the result parameter, there is a is 200 successful, like you are receiving some 200 request code, then only you want to do it. You can just wrap it here. If you're not going to receive any 200 request code, sorry, response code, then this if check will not be executed. Are you able to get this point? So you should say this and, sorry, my bad, and result dot get body is not equal to null. Okay, then only you should have this. Make sense? Looks good, right? So let's do this. Let's do this. We have our request. Let's see if this API is still working. Like, I'm not sure if I made changes to the latitude, longitude, but let's see. Do we have the data in Redis? Oh, sorry, post request, my bad. Okay, yeah. We are able to get the nearby drivers still, so looks good. Now here, we need some passengers as well, right? So I will go to the data source, MySQL. Okay. And root and URL should be or just test connection apply. Okay, and here we should have the schema of UberDB local. UberDB local, and we have a couple of tables. Let's have the passenger table. Okay, so I'll create a new query console, insert into passenger all of this values. Okay, so created at should be now, updated at should be now, name should be, let's say, Sanket, phone number is okay, and email is ss@gmail.com. Password is 12345. What else? Active booking ID. I'm not sure. I guess it can be null, right? In the passenger, active booking ID can be null. So we don't want to send that. Home ID last param. These are not mandatory params. I don't want to send this. Rating is also not a mandatory param. Execute. One row affected. If I do select star from passenger, we have one passenger. So we have a passenger ID. So now let's do this. I'll create a new collection. Uber booking service. Inside Uber booking service, I'll say add request. Okay. And booking service is running on which port? Port 8000, I guess, right? What's the port? Port is 8000. So I'll say localhost 8000 / API / v1 / booking. Okay, it's a post request. And what do we need in the controller? We need the create booking DTO. Passenger ID we need. So body raw JSON passenger ID is, let's say, 1. Then start location we will need, exact location, start location. So start location and end location. Okay, this is going to be a JSON, and inside start location, let's do one thing. Nearby drivers, let's, so that we have the name. Okay, this is for update driver location. Okay, so we'll use this latitude and longitude for booking. Make sense, guys? Why? Because start location is the one based on which we are fetching the nearby drivers, right? End location, you can keep anything. End location, I'm just randomly changing it. I'm not sure what will happen if I change it like this. Okay. And let's turn up the booking service. So location service is already up. Let's turn up the booking service. Okay, it fails. 1 second. Why is it failing? Error creating booking controller. Booking controller, what happened? Booking service, okay. Unsatisfied dependency, bean with name passenger repository. Defined enable JP repository declared on this. Oh, 1 second, what happened? We have a passenger repository, JPA repository. In the service IMPL. Oh, my bad. This should be @ repository, I guess. Still failing. It says passenger is not a managed type. Error creating bean with name passenger repository defined in this. If I go to passenger, it's an entity. Okay. Let's see if the auth service is turning up. Yeah, auth service is turning up, no problem. In the auth service, we have a passenger repository. Is there anything different here? So we have a passenger repository. Oh, I guess probably it's because we don't have a entity scan and enable JP alerting. Remember, we have to mention that the entity has to be scanned inside this service. So let's do that and restart. This is probably the issue. And you can see this is up. If I send the request, okay, something went wrong, definitely. It says connection refused to port 8000. Could not send request. Localhost 8000/API/v1/booking. Booking controller /API/v1/booking. Post mapping. And what happened? Let's see. Let's restart the location service maybe once. Booking service also. Okay. Oh, the port is on 7476. Okay, 1 second. Why is that? Tomcat server starting on 7476. This is starting on 7777. This is good. But it's not taking the port. Okay, just a second, guys. Why it has stopped taking the port? Did we make any change? Why this is 7476? 1 second. Can you see? Inside the entity service, we have a server.port configuration variable mentioned. It's taking the configuration from here. We should not have it here. Can I say that, guys? We should not have it here. That was the problem. So let's update the snapshot to 0.00.06. And we should do a publish. Gradle w publish to Maven local. Okay. And inside our booking service, we'll go to build.gradle and we need a 0.06. Will this stop the server, refresh and restart the server? And now we have 8001. Looks good. Because there was no point of having that configuration variable here. So it was picking it from that service. And if I send it, okay, now the code is going on. Now the code is traveling. Let's see, why is there an error? Okay. Can you see this end location property? Let's see, what is this? Is end location coming up here, and line number 47, you say booking details dot get end location dot save booking. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's comment out this one for once. Okay, let's send it again once. Now it is coming from start location. Okay, so let's see what's happening. Let's just quickly Google this error. Why is this happening? Okay, yeah, makes sense. You can see you should include cascade.all because what it has to do, it has to save the location. Because if you see this this is coming from the location instance. If you see the entity for passenger, this is a one-to-one mapping of exact location. Can you see this one? Okay. So we need to save this exact location. What we can do is we can have a cascade here. We can have a cascade here for start and end location of booking. So if I go to booking, okay, here we can say cascade is equals to cascade.all, so that the moment we save the booking, we save the location as well. Save it. And because we have made a change, so we'll need to change the version, publish, and build.gradle 7, refresh. Okay, restart. Let's see. So these things you will came to know when, well, you will come to know once you test things out. Okay, it says sending request. Now it failed for something else. You can see some null pointer exception we hit. This one, new booking.get driver. Okay, now because we have not sent the driver property, can you see I didn't send any driver, so this new booking.get driver will be coming as null, of course, right? So let's avoid that for a moment. Okay, let's restart, because we have not finalized any driver, right? Because nobody selected your request. And you can see currently driver is null, assigning driver looks good. And can you see we are able to fetch the nearby drivers, everyone? And how is this happening? Postman is making a call to our booking service. Booking service is here making a call to your API call to your location service. Are you able to get this point? So I'll commit this one as well. So this is an example of your, can you paste that location please to test it out? Paste as in, where do you want me to paste it? In the chat. Okay, 1 second. Send it again. Copy. And this one, paste it here. Okay. And here also, like I can send it from this as this one as well. This is the JSON request. Response. Okay. So I'll say git init, git add all, git commit -m, added synchronous microservice interaction. Okay, I'll make a new GitHub repo. Now we have to just work on our booking repository and just connect everything. Can you see it was very easy to make a synchronous communication? And this same thing you could have done with what? Retrofit as well, right? So now you know retrofit also, REST template also, Uber booking service. Get checkout, get push. There we go. Make sense, everyone? Now you know how to make a synchronous communication between two microservices, right? And I told you, right? It's pretty easy. Now you're able to fetch the location of the nearby drivers, and that location is coming from technically your Redis server. Now, we'll wrap today's session here, but what I will ask you guys to do is, I will ask you guys to maybe try it out with retrofit as well. Okay, see if you can do things with retrofit. There is an interesting thing that is happening here. This is a synchronous call, no problem. But just think about it for one moment. Currently, what's happening is you create this booking, you make this API call. Your code actually waits here. Your code actually waits here till the time this API call is done. It waits, and then only it sends back the response. Can I say that? Now, what libraries like retrofit can give you? I'll share this link of the booking service. What libraries like retrofit can give you is this retrofit async calls. Okay. You can make asynchronous calls with retrofit as well. For example, can you see? This is a asynchronous call using retrofit. Okay. What happens is that you register a on response callback kind of a thing. Okay. And when at any point of time later, when the response comes up, then you actually print this. And what happens is this makes your call non-blocking. Currently, your REST template call is blocking. What you can do is you can make this call non-blocking using retrofit. And you need a non-blocking call. Why do you need a non-blocking call? Because I don't need to wait for this driver request to come up. I just have to create a bare minimum booking entity that is in a assigning driver state. Because now drivers will be requested, drivers will be fetched, then drivers will be requested. They're going to give back. A lot of things are going to happen. We can't wait for here forever, right? Yes or no, guys? So we need a asynchronous communication mechanism that ideally whatever is present here, it should not block our above and below code. And whenever this result comes back, rest of the operations can happen. So what I'm going to do is I'll ask you guys to also do it, but in the tomorrow's class, I'll probably replace this REST template with a retrofit asynchronous call. I could have done it directly, but I've also wanted to give you exposure around REST template because this comes directly packed with Spring Boot. You can see if you see REST template, it's directly part of the Spring framework. So I wanted you guys to have exposure to that as well. But you can see libraries like retrofit can also help us in a great way. You can have a response and a failure mechanism set up. So try it out. Try it out. I'll share the link of this article as well. Try it out this as well, and maybe you'll get some good context. Make sense, everyone? So we discussed a lot of things today. We discussed about WebSockets. We have also tried out synchronous communication. We just have to see asynchronous communication and WebSocket communication between two services. And our overall application will start coming into the picture. You can see this is a pretty big project that we have actually pulled off, and you can keep on developing features here. That's why it's after some point of time, people need team to actually make the whole startup come at one place. You can see there are so many moving pieces in this project. Make sense? Make sense, guys? Cool. That being said, let's wrap today's session here. We're going to meet soon in the next session, guys, where we will continue our discussion and